The first thing I noticed when I walked into my childhood home was that my mother had vanished. Not physically, she'd been gone for 2 years now, but every trace of her existence had been meticulously erased. Where her favourite painting of sunflowers once brightened the entryway, an abstract piece in cold blues and greys now dominated the wall. Her antique side table, the one she'd lovingly restored herself, had been replaced by a sleek, modern console. I'm Beatrice, and I was standing in what felt like a stranger's house. "Darling, you're early," Francesca's voice carried from the kitchen, syrupy sweet and somehow still sharp. My father's new wife emerged, wiping her hands on an apron I'd never seen before. "We weren't expecting you for another hour." Traffic was light, I managed, my throat tight. "Where's Dad?" "Still at the office. You know how he gets with his cases?" She gestured around the transformed space. "Do you like what I've done with the place? It needed a fresh start, don't you think?" Before I could answer, the front door opened again. My brother Jeremy walked in, his tie loosened and jacket slung over his shoulder. His eyes met mine, and I saw my own discomfort reflected there. "B," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. "You look tired," I supplied. "It's been a long drive." "Children," Francesca clapped her hands. "Why don't you both help me set the table? I've made my special risotto." As we followed her to the dining room, I noticed my mother's china cabinet was gone. In its place stood a minimalist shelving unit, displaying abstract sculptures. "Where's Mom's china?" The words burst out before I could stop them. Francesca paused, her back stiffening slightly. "Oh, those old things. They were quite dated, weren't they? I've packed them away somewhere safe." "Somewhere safe?" I echoed. "They're family heirlooms." "Bae," Jeremy warned quietly. The doorbell rang, saving us from the brewing tension. Francesca brightened immediately. "That must be Noelle. I invited my sister to join us." I watched as she hurried to the door, greeting a tall woman with the same honey-blonde hair but sharper features. Something passed between the sisters, a look I couldn't quite interpret, before Noelle's smile fixed firmly in place. "You must be Beatrice," Noelle said, extending her hand. "I've heard so much about you." "Funny," I replied, shaking her hand. "I've heard almost nothing about you." Dad arrived just as Francesca was serving dinner. He kissed her cheek, ruffled my hair like I was still 12, and took his place at the head of the table, my mother's old chair. "So, Beatrice," Francesca began, spooning risotto onto everyone's plates. "How's the final year of college going? Still pursuing that? What was it again?" "Psychology," I said. "And it's going well." "Ah, yes, psychology." She exchanged a meaningful look with my father. "Have you given any thought to law school? Your father and I were just discussing how well you'd fit into the family practice." I pushed the risotto around my plate. "I'm planning to get my master's in counselling, actually. I've already been accepted to—" "Beatrice," Dad interrupted, "we've talked about this. The firm needs fresh blood, and you've got the Ryan instincts." "I have my own plans, Dad." "Plans change, sweetheart." Francesca reached across the table to pat my hand. I resisted the urge to pull away. "Family should come first, don't you think?" That's when I noticed it. The way Noelle's knuckles whitened around her wine glass, the slight shake of her head at her sister's words. There was a story there, something hidden beneath the surface. "Speaking of family," I said carefully, "I was hoping to hang Mom's portrait back up in the study. I noticed it was taken down." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Francesca's fork clinked against her plate. "Oh, darling," she said, her voice dripping with manufactured sympathy, "we agreed it was time to move forward, didn't we, Ulysses?" Dad cleared his throat. "It's for the best, Bea. We can't live in the past forever." I looked at Jeremy, but he was suddenly very interested in his food. Noelle, however, was watching her sister with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it fear? Disgust? "Of course," I said finally, forcing a smile. "Moving forward. That's what Mom would want, right?" But as I sat there, watching Francesca orchestrate her perfect family dinner in my mother's house, wearing my mother's apron, which I'd just recognised, serving food on new plates that erased decades of family memories, I made a decision. This wasn't about moving forward. This was about erasure, and I wasn't going to let it happen. She's literally erasing my mother from existence, Wendy. I paced back and forth in my best friend's apartment, clutching a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. You should have seen it. Every photo, every memento, gone. Wendy sat cross-legged on her couch, her laptop balanced on her knees. Have you Googled her? Francesca, of course, but there's nothing except some charity event photos and her wedding announcement to Dad. Then we need to dig deeper. Wendy's fingers flew across the keyboard. What did you say her sister's name was? Noelle. And there was definitely something off about their interaction at dinner. Got her. Wendy turned the laptop toward me. Noelle works at a real estate firm downtown. We could always pay her a friendly visit. I grabbed my jacket. Let's go. The real estate office was all glass and chrome, with Noelle's name displayed prominently on one of the corner office doors. She looked up as we entered, her professional smile faltering when she recognized me. Beatrice, this is unexpected. I was in the neighborhood, I lied smoothly. Thought I'd stop by and properly introduce my friend Wendy. We're actually looking for investment properties. Noelle's posture relaxed slightly. Of course. Please, sit down. We spent 20 minutes discussing property values and market trends before I carefully steered the conversation toward family. It must be nice having your sister so close by now, I said casually. Have you always been in the same city? Noelle's fingers tightened around her pen. No, actually. Francesca moves around quite a bit. Oh? I leaned forward. For work? Something like that. Noelle glanced at the door. Look, Beatrice, I should probably... Did she move around with her first husband too? The pen clattered to the desk. Who told you about... So there was a first husband, Wendy chimed in, her voice neutral but her eyes sharp. Noelle stood abruptly. I think you should leave. Please, I said, standing too. Something's not right here. I can feel it. My mother's memory is being systematically erased from our home, and my father acts like he's under some kind of spell. You don't understand what you're getting into. Noelle's voice dropped to a whisper. Francesca has a way of making things disappear when they don't suit her narrative. What things? People. Problems. The past. She glanced at her phone as it buzzed. Her face went pale. She's here. You need to leave. Now. But now, Beatrice. And if you're smart, you'll stop asking questions. Noelle grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in. There are things about my sister that... The office door swung open. Francesca stood there, immaculate in a cream-coloured suit, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Well, isn't this cosy? She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Beatrice, darling, what a surprise. We were just looking at investment properties. Wendy jumped in smoothly. Your sister has been very helpful. Has she? Francesca's gaze locked onto Noelle. How thoughtful of her. Noelle seemed to shrink under her sister's stare. Just doing my job. Of course you are. Francesca turned to me. Beatrice, your father mentioned you were coming over for dinner again tonight. I'm making his favourite, pot roast. Actually, I have plans with Wendy. Cancel them. It wasn't a request. Family dinner is important, don't you think? Especially now that we're all getting to know each other better. The threat in her voice was subtle but unmistakable. I forced a smile. Of course. I'll be there. As we left the office, I heard Francesca's voice, low and dangerous. Sit down, Noelle. We need to talk about boundaries. In the elevator, Wendy grabbed my hand. Holy shit, Bea. Your stepmother is terrifying. Did you see Noelle's face when she walked in? Like she'd seen a ghost? Or the devil? Wendy pulled out her phone. I managed to snap a photo of Noelle's computer screen while she was distracted. Look at the tab she had open. I squinted at the image. It showed a news article from 5 years ago. Local business owner missing, foul play suspected. What does that have to do with... Look at the photo caption, Wendy pointed. The missing man's fiancée at the time? Francesca Simmons. My blood ran cold. We need to find out what happened to him. And what happened to her first husband, Wendy added. Because something tells me there's a lot more to your stepmother's past than a few charity events and a wedding announcement. As we stepped out into the sunlight, my phone buzzed with a text from Francesca. Looking forward to dinner, darling. We have so much to discuss. I showed it to Wendy, who shuddered. Be careful, Bea. I think we just kicked a hornet's nest. Good, I said, my jaw set. It's about time someone did. Jeremy cornered me in the driveway before I could make it into the house for Francesca's mandatory dinner. What the hell were you doing at Noelle's office? How did you… Francesca told Dad. He's furious. He ran a hand through his hair. What are you trying to prove, Bea? Don't you think it's weird that we know nothing about her? That she's systematically removing every trace of Mom from the house? People grieve differently. Dad's moving on. Maybe you should too. I pulled out my phone and showed him the article about the missing businessman. Is this moving on? Because it looks more like a pattern to me. Jeremy scanned the article, his face darkening. This doesn't prove anything. Then help me prove it. You're the one with the law degree. Don't you want to know who's really living in our house? Stop. He grabbed my arm. Just stop. You're going to tear this family apart. This family? I yanked free. This isn't our family, Jeremy. This is some twisted replacement version where we pretend Mom never existed. The front door opened, spilling warm light onto the driveway. Francesca stood silhouetted in the doorway. Children, dinner's getting cold. Inside, Dad was already seated at the table, his expression stormy. Beatrice, what's this I hear about you harassing Noelle at work? I wasn't harassing anyone. I was looking at properties. Don't lie to me. He slammed his hand on the table. Francesca says, Of course, Francesca says. I cut him off. Have you ever considered that maybe Francesca isn't telling you everything? That's enough. Dad stood up. I won't have you disrespecting my wife in our home. Your wife? I laughed bitterly. Which one? Because last time I checked, Mom's pictures used to hang in this home too. Francesca placed a hand on Dad's arm. Darling, she's just upset. Change is hard for young people. She turned to me, her voice honey-sweet. Beatrice, I know you're having trouble accepting me, but… Save it. I pulled out my phone again. Why don't you tell us about Marcus? The colour drained from Francesca's face. Who? Marcus. Your former fiancé. The one who mysteriously disappeared 5 years ago. Jeremy kicked me under the table, but I ignored him. I don't know what you're talking about, Francesca said, but her hands were shaking as she reached for her wine glass. Really? Because the police report says… There was no police report, she snapped, then caught herself. I mean, I don't know any Marcus. Dad looked between us, confusion clouding his features. Francesca. She's making things up, darling. Trying to cause trouble. Francesca's composure returned like a mask sliding into place. Perhaps Beatrice needs some time away from the family to sort through her… issues. My phone buzzed with a text from Wendy. Found marriage records. Call me now. I have to go. I stood up. But this isn't over. Sit down, Dad ordered. We're not finished here. Actually, we are. I headed for the door, then turned back. By the way, Dad, did you know Francesca was married before? Because I'm betting she didn't tell you about that either. The silence that followed me out was deafening. Back in my car, I called Wendy immediately. You're not going to believe this, she said without preamble. I found her first marriage license. She was married to a Thomas Wright, wealthy guy, real estate developer. What happened to him? That's the thing. He died. Boating accident. She inherited everything. When? 7 years ago. And get this. 2 years later, she's engaged to Marcus, who then disappears. Now she's married to your dad, who's also wealthy, I finished. And she's systematically taking control of everything. There's more, Wendy's voice dropped. I just got a weird email from someone named Terry. Says he used to work with Thomas Wright and has information about Francesca. Wants to meet. My phone buzzed with another incoming call, Jeremy. I have to go, I told Wendy. Set up the meeting with Terry. I switched calls. What? You were right, Jeremy said quietly. I just found some documents in Dad's study. Francesca's been having him sign over properties to her name. And there's something else. A life insurance policy. She took it out on him last month. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Jeremy, I think Dad's in danger. I know, he paused. Be careful, Bea. After you left, the way she looked, I've never seen anyone look so cold. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text from Francesca. You really should learn to mind your own business, dear. Some questions are better left unasked. I started my car, my heart pounding. We weren't just dealing with a woman trying to erase my mother's memory anymore. We were dealing with something far more dangerous. And time was running out. Terry chose a busy coffee shop downtown for our meeting. He was already there when I arrived, fidgeting with a thick manila envelope. I recognized him from Dad's law firm holiday parties. He'd been their real estate consultant for years before mysteriously quitting 3 months ago. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. I should have come forward sooner. Terry pushed the envelope toward me. But Francesca, she has a way of making problems disappear. Like Marcus, he flinched. I worked with Thomas Wright, her first husband. The boating accident wasn't an accident. My hand froze halfway to my coffee cup. What do you mean? Thomas was terrified of water, never went near it. But suddenly he decides to go sailing alone? Terry leaned forward. The insurance payout was substantial, just like Marcus's would have been if they'd ever found his body. Did you go to the police? With what? Circumstantial evidence? He tapped the envelope. But I've been gathering proof. Bank records, property transfers, insurance policies. There's a pattern. I opened the envelope. Inside were documents, photos, and newspaper clippings. One photo showed Francesca with Thomas. She looked younger, but that same calculated smile was there. Another showed her with Marcus, standing in front of a construction site. She finds wealthy men, Terry explained, isolates them from family, takes control of their assets, and then they disappear, I finished. Your father's next, Beatrice. She's already started the process, having him sign over properties, taking out life insurance. It's the same playbook she used with Thomas and Marcus. My phone buzzed, a text from Jeremy. Dad's acting weird. Francesca's got him taking some new vitamins she bought. Says they're for stress. I showed Terry the message. His face went pale. Thomas had stress vitamins too. The autopsy showed traces of something in his system, but nothing conclusive. I need copies of everything, I said, pulling out my phone to photograph the documents. Already done. Terry handed me a USB drive. But be careful. After Marcus disappeared, I started digging. Next thing I knew, someone broke into my house. Nothing was taken, but my files were clearly searched. Why are you helping me? Because Marcus was my friend. Terry's voice cracked. And because your father's a good man, he doesn't deserve what's coming. My phone buzzed again. Francesca this time. Having dinner with your father tonight. Shame you won't be joining us. I'm trying a new recipe. I have to go. I stood up quickly. Thank you, Terry. Beatrice. He caught my arm. There's something else. Your mother's death. Have you ever wondered? The coffee shop door chimed. Noelle walked in, saw us, and froze. Behind her, 2 men in dark suits entered. Get out! Terry hissed. Now! Back door! I clutched the envelope and USB drive, slipping through the crowded shop toward the kitchen. Behind me, I heard Noelle's voice. She was just here. The back alley was empty. I ran to my car, hands shaking as I tried to unlock it. My phone buzzed again. Dear Beatrice, curiosity killed the cat. Or in this case, might kill something else. Your father's looking quite pale tonight. Perhaps he needs more vitamins. Francesca, I called Jeremy immediately. Don't let Dad take any more vitamins, I said as soon as he answered. And don't let him eat anything Francesca gives him. What? Why? Just trust me. I'm on my way home. Don't let him out of your sight. I pulled into traffic, checking my rearview mirror for the men in suits. My phone rang. Terry. They're asking questions, he said quickly. I'll try to stall them, but there was a crash, then silence. Terry? Terry! Nothing. At a red light, I quickly photographed every document from the envelope, sending them to both Wendy and Jeremy. As I finished, a black SUV pulled up beside me. The driver was one of the men from the coffee shop. The light turned green. I floored it. The SUV followed. My phone rang again. Dad's number, but Francesca's voice answered. "Beatrice, darling. Your father's not feeling well. Perhaps you should come say goodbye. Come see him. If anything happens to him." "You'll what?" She laughed softly. "Tell the police? Like Terry did about Marcus? Or like Noelle tried to about Thomas? Some stories are better left untold, dear." The SUV was still behind me, gaining ground. "But don't worry," Francesca continued. "I'll take good care of your father, just like I took care of your mother when she started asking too many questions." The phone slipped from my hand. My mother's death hadn't been natural causes. The SUV rammed my back bumper. And now Francesca was coming for the rest of us. I lost the SUV by pulling into a crowded mall parking garage and killing my lights. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I called Jeremy. "Get Dad out of there," I said before he could speak. "Now." "Already did. We're at my apartment. He's not good. He can barely stand." "Call an ambulance." "Francesca's been calling non-stop. Says she's bringing a private doctor." "Don't let her in. I'm on my way." I hesitated. "Jeremy, Mom's death wasn't natural." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Finally." "I know. I found Mom's journal hidden in the study while looking for those documents. She suspected something was wrong. She was going to confront Francesca the day she died." My throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to believe it, but after seeing those bank records, the insurance policies, God be. What have we let into our lives?" A text from Wendy lit up my phone. "Police won't help without concrete evidence, but I found something in those files you sent. Coming over." I made it to Jeremy's apartment in record time. Dad was sprawled on the couch, his skin grey and clammy. Empty vitamin bottles littered the coffee table. "The ambulance is 5 minutes out," Jeremy said, pacing. "But Francesca's downstairs. Security won't hold her for long." "Dad?" I knelt beside him. "Can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open. "Beatrice, I'm sorry. I should have listened. Save your strength." I grabbed the vitamin bottles. "The paramedics need to know what was in these." The door buzzed. Wendy's voice came through the intercom. "Let me in quick. Francesca's arguing with security." Jeremy buzzed her up. She burst in, clutching her laptop. "Those documents you sent? I cross-referenced them with Mom's old medical records." She opened her computer. "The symptoms match. Whatever's in those vitamins, it's the same thing that killed her." Dad started coughing violently. Jeremy supported his head while I called down to the front desk. "Don't let anyone up, especially not..." "Too late." Wendy was at the window. "She's getting in the elevator." The hallway security camera feed on Jeremy's phone showed Francesca and 2 men, the same ones from the coffee shop, ascending. "Fire escape," Jeremy decided, already moving to help Dad up. "Wait." I grabbed Mum's journal from my bag. "Listen to this. Found F's secret box in garage. Everything's there. Proof about Thomas, about Marcus. Have to tell you before..." I looked up. The entry ends there, the day she died. "The garage?" Jeremy's eyes widened. "Dad's old toolbox is still there. Mum used to hide things in it." Footsteps approached outside, a key scraped in the lock, the emergency master key. "Get Dad to the hospital," I told Jeremy. "I'm going to the house." "You can't," Wendy grabbed my arm. "Those men are focused on finding us here." I headed for the fire escape. "Text me when Dad's safe." The door began to open. I slipped out the window just as Francesca's voice filled the apartment. "Darling, are those sirens I hear?" I made it to my car, unseen. The house was dark when I arrived, but Francesca's car was gone. She was still at Jeremy's. The garage door code hadn't changed since I was 12. Dad's toolbox was buried under holiday decorations. Inside, beneath rusted wrenches and old screwdrivers, was a false bottom. My hands trembled as I pried it open. A small USB drive, a stack of photos, and a letter in my mother's handwriting. "If you're reading this, I'm probably dead." My phone buzzed. Dad's in ER, blood tests showing unknown toxins. Police involved now. Where are you? Jeremy. Another text followed. Get out of there. Francesca's on her way back. Wendy, I heard a car in the driveway. The connecting door from the garage to the kitchen opened. Noelle stood there, pale and shaking. Through here, she whispered. Quick. Why are you helping me? Because she killed my husband too. Noelle's eyes were hard. Thomas was my husband first. She was my best friend, and she took everything. Car doors slammed outside. Go! Noelle pushed me toward the back door. That USB drive, it has banking records, offshore accounts, everything the police need. Come with me, she shook her head. Someone has to keep her here, make her think she's won. The front door opened. Francesca's voice carried through the house. Noelle, why are all the lights off? I slipped out just as Noelle called back. In here, sister dear, just making some tea. My phone lit up one last time as I started my car. Found Mum's autopsy photos on the USB, meeting with detectives tomorrow. End this. Jeremy, I clutched the evidence to my chest. I will, Mum, I promise. Behind me, through the kitchen window, I saw Francesca embrace her sister. But even from here, I could see Noelle's hands ball into fists at her sides. The game wasn't over, but now we had proof. And tomorrow everything would change. The hospital waiting room buzzed with fluorescent lights and hushed conversations. Jeremy paced while Wendy and I sorted through Mum's evidence on her laptop. Dad's stable, Jeremy said, hanging up his phone. They're running more tests, but the doctor says the poisoning was caught in time. Look at this, Wendy pointed to her screen. These offshore transfers, they all happened right before each death. Thomas, Marcus, your mum, and now there are new accounts set up in your dad's name. The detective's on his way, Jeremy checked his watch, but we need more than just financial records. My phone buzzed. Noelle. She's planning something, big family dinner tomorrow night, says she's making things right. Don't trust her. Another text followed. Found something in her office safe, coming to hospital, don't tell anyone. Noelle's bringing more evidence, I told Jeremy. How long until the detective gets here? 20 minutes. He sat down heavily. I can't believe we didn't see it. All those times Mum tried to warn us about Francesca, the elevator dinged. We all looked up, expecting Noelle. Instead, Terry stumbled out, his face bruised and bloody. Jesus! Jeremy caught him as he nearly collapsed. What happened? Francesca's men, Terry coughed. They wanted to know what I told you, but that's not important. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I got this from my security camera last night, after they finished with me. The video showed Francesca in Terry's office, rifling through his files. She was on the phone. It's handled. No, he won't talk. The family dinner tomorrow will take care of everything. Yes, all of them. Just like before. She's planning something at the dinner, I said. Something big. Mass poisoning, Wendy suggested. No, Terry shook his head. Too obvious now. She needs it to look accidental. Like Thomas's boating accident or Marcus's disappearance. The elevator dinged again. This time it was Noelle clutching a small red notebook. Her diary, she said, thrusting it at me. Every detail, every plan written in her own hand. She's always kept one. It's her trophy collection. She looked around frantically. Where's the detective? Not here yet. Jeremy checked his phone. But then we need to leave. Now. Noelle's voice shook. She knows I took it. She'll be coming. As if on cue, my phone rang. Francesca. Speaker, Jeremy mouthed. I answered. Hello? Darling. Francesca's voice was silk over steel. I seem to be missing something important, but don't worry, I know exactly where to find it. Stay away from us. Us? She laughed softly. Oh, is my dear sister there too? Noelle always did have a problem with loyalty, just like your mother. We have proof, I said. Everything. The murders, the money. Proof? Another laugh. Like Terry's proof or your mother's? Evidence has a funny way of combusting. Speaking of which, you might want to check on your father's room. Hospitals can be so dangerous. All those oxygen tanks. Electrical equipment. Jeremy was already running toward Dad's room. You won't get away with this, I said. I already have, 3 times before, but I'm feeling generous. Come to dinner tomorrow night. Bring everyone, Jeremy, Wendy, my traitorous sister. Bring your little diary and your USB drives. Let's end this properly. Like you ended things with Thomas, with Marcus. Better. Her voice hardened. Or I could just trigger the fire alarm now. Hospitals are such chaos during evacuations. Anything could happen to a helpless patient. Jeremy came running back. She's got men outside Dad's room. Tick-tock, Beatrice, Francesca said. Dinner's at 7, don't be late. The line went dead. We can't wait for the detective, Noelle said. She's got people everywhere, police, hospital staff. Then we end this now, I stood up. At dinner, her way. That's suicide, Terry protested. No, Jeremy's eyes lit up. It's perfect. She's overconfident, thinks she has us cornered. But if we can get her to confess, with everyone there, I can set up remote recordings, Wendy added. Multiple devices streaming to secure servers. And I know all her tricks, Noelle said. Every poison, every accident she staged. My phone buzzed one last time. Don't forget to dress for dinner, darling. It's a special occasion. Your mother wore such a lovely blue dress the night she died. Perhaps you have something similar. Francesca. Tomorrow night, I said, clutching Mom's diary. We finish this. Be careful, Terry warned. She's never lost before. She's never faced a family she tried to destroy before, Jeremy said. Outside Dad's room, I saw one of Francesca's men watching us. He spoke into a phone, smiling. The game was reaching its end. But this time, we knew all the players. And tomorrow night, only one side would walk away from that dinner table. I wore my mother's blue dress to dinner. Francesca's smile faltered when she opened the door, just for a second, but I caught it. You look just like her, she said, voice dripping honey. Come in, everyone's waiting. The dining room was set for a feast. Dad sat at the head of the table, still pale but upright, with Jeremy beside him. Wendy and Terry took their seats while Noelle hovered near the kitchen, avoiding her sister's gaze. Wine? Francesca lifted a crystal decanter. I'll pour, Noelle said quickly, taking it from her hands. The sisters locked eyes, a silent battle of wills. Such a lovely family gathering. Francesca sat at the other end of the table, shame about the circumstances. You mean the poisoning? I placed Mom's diary on the table. Or the murders? Beatrice, Dad started, but Jeremy squeezed his arm. Let her talk, Dad. Let's hear what she has to say. Francesca's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. Murders? My goodness, what an imagination. Though I suppose grief can do strange things to a person's mind. Like Thomas's grief before his boating accident. Noelle's hands shook as she poured wine. Or Marcus's before he disappeared. Careful, sister. Francesca's smile turned sharp. You're still my family. Like Mom was family? I pulled out my phone, playing the security footage from Terry's office. Francesca's voice filled the room. It's handled. The family dinner tomorrow will take care of everything. A recording can be manipulated, she said smoothly. Just like bank records, insurance policies, even diaries can be forged. But memories can't, Dad spoke up, his voice stronger than I'd heard in days. I remember Laura, my wife, telling me something was wrong the day before she died. Darling, you were distraught. I remember the vitamins you gave her. He pushed back from the table. The same ones you gave me. Francesca's composure cracked just slightly. Everything I did was for us. This family needed cleaning up. Like you cleaned up Thomas. Noelle slammed the decanter down. My husband, my best friend. You took everything. He was weak. Like Marcus. Like Laura. Francesca stood, mask finally slipping. They all asked too many questions, poked too many holes. This family needed a strong hand. We've got it all on tape, Wendy held up her phone. Live streaming to 3 different servers. And the police have copies of everything, Terry added. The diary, the bank records. The police? Francesca laughed again, but it was brittle now. You think I don't own half the force? Why do you think they ignored Marcus's disappearance? Thomas's suspicious accident? Not these police. Jeremy nodded toward the dining room windows where red and blue lights suddenly flashed. Federal agents don't take kindly to multiple murders across state lines. Francesca's face went white. She reached for her purse. Looking for this. Noelle held up a small revolver. I found it in your safe, along with letters from Thomas begging for his life. You were my sister, Francesca snarled. You were supposed to understand. I understand that you're a monster. Noelle's voice broke. That you killed my husband, tried to kill my new family. The front door burst open. Federal agents poured in, weapons drawn. It's over, Francesca. I stood up. Mum can rest now. She looked around wildly, then lunged for Dad. I'll take you all. Jeremy tackled her before she could reach him. She hit the table hard, sending glasses shattering. Francesca Simmons? An agent stepped forward, handcuffs ready. You're under arrest for the murders of Thomas Wright, Marcus Peters, and Laura Ryan, and the attempted murder of Ulysses Ryan. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. I made this family perfect. No, Dad said, standing with Jeremy's help. You destroyed a family. My wife, my Laura. She made it perfect. Francesca screamed as they took her out. In the chaos, I felt Dad's hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have seen it, should have listened. We all should have, Jeremy said. Noelle handed the gun to an agent, her hands still shaking. It's really over. Almost. Wendy was checking her phone. They found Marcus's body, where she said it would be in the diary, and they're reopening Thomas's case. Outside, Francesca's screams faded as the police cars pulled away. Dad walked to the wall where Mom's pictures used to hang. We'll put them back up, he said quietly. All of them. Laura should never have been taken down. I touched my mother's blue dress, feeling closer to her than I had in years. She's still here, Dad. She helped us see the truth. The federal agents finished gathering evidence, leaving us in the wreckage of Francesca's final dinner party. But as I looked around at my real family, Dad, Jeremy, Wendy, even Noelle and Terry, I knew we'd rebuild. Mom's diary lay open on the table, her final warning finally heard, her final case finally solved, and her family, finally, truly safe. The morning sun streamed through the windows as I helped Dad hang Mom's last photograph, her favourite, showing all of us at the beach. Her smile radiated from the frame, bringing warmth back to the house that had felt cold for so long. Perfect, Dad said, stepping back. He looked healthier now, the colour returned to his face. She always knew exactly where everything should go. The doorbell rang. Jeremy walked in with a stack of newspapers. You made the front page again, he told me, spreading them on the coffee table. The headlines screamed, Black Widow Killer Convicted, and Justice for 3 Families. The DA called, he continued. Francesca's facing 3 life sentences, no possibility of parole. 4, actually. Noelle entered through the open door, carrying a box of old photos. They found evidence linking her to another death in Florida, before Thomas. Dad sank into his armchair, Mum's old reading chair that we'd brought back from storage. I still can't believe I let her fool me so completely. She fooled everyone, I said, but he shook his head. Not your mother, and not you. He picked up one of the newspapers. You fought for the truth just like Laura would have. Wendy arrived with Terry carrying boxes of their own. We'd been slowly restoring the house, bringing back pieces of our history that Francesca had tried to erase. Found these in the evidence lockup. Terry set down his box. The police said we could have them back now that the trial's over. Inside were Mom's journals. Not just the one that helped convict Francesca, but all of them. Years of memories, observations, and love for her family, written in her familiar handwriting. Look at this. Wendy pulled out a photo album. Your mom kept records of everything. She knew something was wrong with Francesca from the start. She was protecting us, Jeremy said, flipping through one of the journals. Even after Francesca. Even after I killed her. A cold voice came from the doorway. We all spun around. Francesca stood there in handcuffs, flanked by federal agents. Her designer clothes were replaced by an orange jumpsuit, her perfect makeup gone. Sorry to interrupt, one agent said. She insisted on retrieving personal items before being transferred to federal prison. We'll be quick. Nothing here belongs to you. Dad stood up, stronger than I'd seen him in months. No? Francesca's eyes darted around the room, taking in Mom's restored photos, the recovered mementos. I made this house mine. This family mine. You never had us, I said. Mom made sure of that. Your precious mother, she spat. So perfect, so observant. Did she observe the poison in her coffee? Did she know what was happening when her heart... That's enough, the agent pulled her toward the stairs. Get what you came for. I already have what I came for, Francesca smiled, but it was empty now. One last look at my greatest failure, the family I couldn't break. As they led her away, she called back. Enjoy your memories, they're all you have left. No, Noelle spoke up, surprising us all. They have justice, they have truth, and they have each other. That's more than you ever had, sister. The door closed behind them. We stood in silence until the police cars drove away. She's wrong, you know. Wendy picked up one of Mom's journals. Memories aren't all you have left. You have Laura's strength, her love, her warning that saved your lives. Dad walked to Mom's photograph, touching it gently. She's still protecting us, still keeping us together. And now everyone knows the truth, Terry added. About Thomas, about Marcus. Their families can heal too. I opened Mom's journal to her last entry, the one that started this whole journey. My dearest family, if you're reading this, stay strong, stay together. The truth will always find its way home. Home, Jeremy echoed, looking around at the restored house, at Mom's photos watching over us. It finally feels like home again. Dad gathered us all in front of Mom's favourite photograph. Wendy set up her camera timer. Laura always insisted on family photos, he said. Said they captured more than just moments. They captured love. The camera flashed, catching us all. Dad, Jeremy, me, Wendy, Terry, even Noelle, surrounded by Mom's restored presence. Not just in photographs and journals, but in the strength she gave us, the truth she helped us uncover, and the family she protected until the very end. Outside, spring flowers bloomed in Mom's garden, which we'd started restoring. Her favourite roses were budding again, reaching for the sun. Life was returning to our home. Truth had won over lies. Love had won over hate. And Mom's legacy lived on, in every corner, in every heart, in every moment of justice finally served. We were her final victory.